look at the different exponents properties. This video is only going to cover basic exponents, zero exponents, and negative exponents. So the first thing we're going to do is just identify the basic parts of the exponent, and you're going to have examples, explanations to put into your foldable. So the first thing is looking at x times x times x times x. And if you put that in exponential form, it would be x to the fourth power, where the x is the base and the 4 is the exponent. And then the 0 exponent is always going to equal 1. No matter what it is, the answer is 1. And it's because of the pattern that I'll show you in class on the board. So anytime you see an exponent of 0, the answer is going to simply become 1. Now let's do some examples. You have 5 times 5 times 5. In exponential form, that is 5 to the third power. Then you could also have m times m times m times m, which is m to the fourth power. And our 0 exponents, 5 to the 0 power is 1. M to the 0 power is 1. And AB in parentheses, all raised to the 0 power, is also going to be 1. Now for your negative exponents, this also goes with a pattern that I'll show you on the board. But you cannot have a negative exponent as a final answer. So when you have the negative exponent, you're going to use the reciprocal to make that exponent positive. So you're removing the negative by using the reciprocal, which means you're flipping it over to make the exponents positive. And you cannot have negative exponents in your answer. Negative exponents are not allowed. And I need to change that to say negative exponents not allowed. So forget that part. Let's put not. Wow, that makes a little bit more sense. So let's do some examples because this one is a little bit tricky and it's one that you guys tend to forget. So the negative exponent, 5 to the negative fourth, I'm going to make this a fraction because if we're thinking about the word reciprocal, it's the flipped version of the fraction. And I'm going to look, 5 to the negative fourth. 5 has a negative attitude because of that negative 4. And when I think of a negative attitude, I think that if you have a negative attitude, you need to go away. Well, the only places you can have are upstairs or downstairs, and because they're already upstairs, I'm going to move them downstairs. And so they become 1 over 5 to the positive fourth, because when you move them, the exponent becomes positive. And notice the 5 stayed the same. Let's look at this example. You're going to take it one step at a time, and let's look. We have m to the negative 6th power. Well, they have a negative attitude, so they need to go downstairs. So if you have your fraction bar, you would move m to the negative 6 downstairs, and it would become a positive 6. And then you can see that 7 also has a negative attitude because of the negative 3 exponent. And so because they're already downstairs, they have to go somewhere, so they're going to go upstairs. So you're basically flipping them over, and the exponents become positive. Let's look at this one. M to the 5th, x to the negative 3rd, n to the negative 6th, y to the negative 2. So m to the 5th does not have a negative attitude, so they're going to stay upstairs. X to the negative 3rd does have a negative attitude, so they need to go downstairs. N to the negative 6 does have a negative exponent, so they have to go upstairs because they're downstairs. They have to go upstairs. And y to the negative 2nd power has to go upstairs as well because it also has a negative attitude. And when you do each step one at a time, it's a lot easier. So your final answer will be m to the 5th, n to the 6th, y to the 2nd, and x to the 3rd. Now we have one more example. And for this one, you have negative 6x to the negative 4 over 3y to the negative 5th, z to the 3rd. And again, we're going to take it one step at a time. But notice we have some coefficients here. We have negative 6 and you have 3. And if you just had negative 6 over 3, you know that would equal negative 2 over 1. So we can go ahead and put our fraction bar negative 2 over 1, and that takes care of the numbers. Then you just have to see who has a negative attitude because of their exponent and who needs to go upstairs or downstairs. So x to the negative 4th has a negative attitude. They need to go downstairs. So I'm going to go ahead and put them downstairs for the positive attitude. And then I'm going to go downstairs. I have y to the negative 5th. They have a negative attitude, so they need to go upstairs. So y to the 5th becomes positive exponent. And z to the 3rd is a positive exponent, so they don't need to go anywhere, so they stay on the bottom. And then your final answer, negative 2y to the 5th over 1x to the 4th, z to the 3rd. And you don't even need this 1, but it definitely makes it easier as a placeholder. And remember, no bad attitudes. If you have a bad attitude, you have to go upstairs or downstairs based on where you are located.